So this video will show you how to get a great, almost clean tone, sometimes referred to as an edge of breakup guitar tone. I also want to show you something that changed the game for me with this type of guitar sound, and you can hear it here in this mix.
Chase the things that I just can't have. Take a pill when I forget that.
That's a great track called Learn to Live by Safe House. Link for that song is in the description if you want to check it out. Let's get into the guitar tone. So double tracked guitars, one take hard left, one take hard right. And I've bussed these together, which is where I've put the amp sim and all of the mixing effect. I have compressed the DI here going into the bus. You've got a medium slow attack, medium fast release to get more pick attack and definition out of the guitar tone. So first thing I did was run the DI through the Shep 73 to give it a bit of saturation, just a tiny, tiny bit. And then I compressed it with the CLA 3A, again, just a small bit. So this is how the DI sounds before it goes into the amp sim. So you can hear the pick attack in that I've helped with the compressors. There's a little bit of saturation from the Shep 73. So I've tried many amp sims to get this sound, and nothing I find works as well as the Guilty Pleasure from Toneforge. You can get this from Joey Sturgis Tones. It's pretty cheap, and it's primarily used for really high gain guitars, but when you dial this gain all the way back, it just works so well for this kind of sound. So let me show you the default setting on this amp sim here. You'll be surprised that we managed to get this kind of tone out of it. This is actually how the amp sounds. As you can see, I dialed the gain way back, just under 2 here. Bass and mid I left pretty much where they are. There's quite a lot of mids in this tone, and then trebles boosted the top end a little bit too. And then we're using a condenser mic here on a Mesa 4x12 cab sim. So let's hear that. Yeah, we're getting quite a nice vibe out of that. It's clean, but it's just got a little bit of breakup in it, which is what we're after. It's quite muddy, so with EQ later on, we're going to brighten that up. I just wanted to show you the secret weapon, really, with low gain tones and clean tones like this. And it's built into this plugin for this exact reason, and that's the limiter here at the end of the chain. So we'll just turn all of the mixing on after this point, because I just want to show the difference that this limiter makes. So this is with the limiter on. And let's turn everything off. Obviously, it's a limiter, so there'll be a bit of a volume jump. This is how it sounds without any limiting. And hopefully you heard there when I engaged the limiter again, just how important that is. The guitar tone would come and disappear with each strum, but this limiter sort of connects those strums together, gives it a little bit of dirt and pins it in place. Distorted guitars, you don't need much compression because they're a pretty much solid signal, whereas with low gain like this limiter just makes all the difference. Let me show you that once more, off and on. Try to listen past the volume jump. It is a limiter, so it's going to do that. You can hear it just connect those strums together, pin it, just give it that tiny bit of dirt, just the tiniest bit. So how do I get that guitar tone that you heard in the amp sim to sound bright and fit the mix? So from there, we got some more compression, and this is pretty slow attack, really fast release, so you can get a bit more pick attack in there, which turns it into this. Bit more bite, bit more attack, and now we're going to brighten it up. What I've done here in this filter is roll the top end off to 11 kilohertz, but these slopes are so gentle in this plugin. And I've rolled the low end off all the way up to just about 160. Of course, I wouldn't do that with more distorted guitars, but you heard in the amp sim that this was a little bit muddy. So I'm trying to take care of that, really focus in on where this guitar tones are going to shine, and then quite a dramatic 8K boost here, 4 decibels at 8K. And this is a shelf, not a bell. Yes, we could have used the EQ in the Toneforge plugin, and yes, we could have pushed the actual amp settings themselves up, but I actually prefer brightening guitars with this plugin over anything else. Let's hear this off and on. Yeah, without that, those guitars don't really sing how they should. You can hear you've got the tiniest bit of gain from the amp, you've got the limiter working to give it a little bit of dirt, and now this just opens it up and really puts it where it's supposed to be. And I just love how that sounds. But we don't stop there. We want to give it a bit of analog magic. That's why I've used this Saturn II just for a bit of saturation, set to warm tube saturation here, and actually driven a bit harder than I normally would on guitars, but we haven't got distortion going on, so we can fully take advantage of these and make it sound like it's going through some analog gear. It doesn't have to be this expensive plugin, just saturate a little bit. Whether you could use the Shep 73 for this, you could use anything that models hardware. And now we'll get into some more specific EQ. And this is what you would normally typically do with more distorted guitars. Here we're just literally nudging the tiniest bit, gets it out of the way of the vocals and softens it up a little bit, because this song isn't supposed to be hard and driven and spiky. You know, we want to smooth it out a little bit. So these are the tiniest little EQ moves and a little bit of 1.5K there. That's also where the bass string noise is going to be. We don't want anything to build up in these areas. So this will be really subtle, but let's listen to this off and on. Actually, you know, not that subtle. Where we've brightened it up, it just takes the spikiness out of it. So we still get the brightness, and we've still placed it where we want it to be, cleaned up the mud. We're just taking that little edge off a little bit, just to fit the vibe of the song. And then a little bit of soothe, just on the default setting here, because it focuses quite nicely where guitars can be. Sometimes I'll push this 2 to 4K up a little bit, but again, these guitars are softer, we don't need to. And that will just be dynamically affecting the sort of harsher frequencies. You know, and depending on how sort of rougher you wanted the tone, you wouldn't necessarily clean these bits up, but it fits the song in this scenario. So we've got a couple of effect sends here. We've got some guitar verb going on, and that is the CLA guitar plugin. Everything else is off. We've just got some hall reverb happening, so that sounds like this. Just some subtle reverb. You know, there's room for it in this mix. It's not that dense. And then we do have a guitar doubler plugin happening here. This is the micro shift from Sound Toys, but you can just use a doubler plugin, like the Waves doubler, for example. And this really isn't doing much. I've only sent minus 12 dB of signal to this aux channel here. That just gives it a little bit of width. So let's hear that again in the context of the mix, and we'll turn all of the EQ and compression settings off so you can hear how important they are. So this is just the guitar tone in the mix without any mixing.
Chase the things that I just can't have. Take a pill when I forget that light.
Now hopefully when I turn all these on, you'll hear just how important the little bits of EQ, the little touch of reverb, and the little bit of doubler does.
Chase the things that I just can't have. Take a pill when I forget that life is short, but it's just that I don't want.
And just quickly, if you make music like this, or you're more of a pop punk emo artist like I normally work with, and you want me to mix your next release, then head over to my website, terrybeckleyrecording.com, and fill out the contact form there. I will get back to you. The link is in the description. If you want to see how I would go about getting a more distorted rhythm tone for pop punk and emo and rock music, then watch this video here, or check out my channel where I've got loads of videos like that, as well as mixing videos on all things pop punk. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.